All right, this is page 11 in our digital interactive notebook. We're going to write page 11 in our composition notebook, then take a picture and place this in our digital interactive notebook. This will be the first page of our second interactive notebook check for this quarter. And it's linear word problems. All right, here we're going to talk about how do you write a linear equation from a word problem. Okay. All right, we're going to use the same 3 steps that we use to write a linear equation when we're given a line, a linear equation when we're given m and b, a linear equation when we're given 1 point in the slope, a linear equation when we're given 2 points, okay? And those same 3 steps look like this, okay? The first thing that you do is figure out what the slope is. So find the slope. So as you're reading, and you want to find the slope, actually what you're looking for is the rate, because slope and rate or rate of change are synonyms. So look for the word, what is the rate, or remember rate could be 2 units, a ratio with 2 units, or 2 units that making comparison of 2 units. So you could have 5 miles per hour. The units there is miles and hours. Okay. Um, $7 per person. So it's the cost per person. So you got cost and then persons are your 2 units that are there. So those are rates or rates of change. So in your word problem, that's what you're going to be looking for. You're going to be looking for a rate, some kind of rate, and the rate might go up or the rate might go down at a certain amount. So you're looking for rate of change or just rate. And that value is going to be your slope. That's what you substitute for m. That's going to be your slope. Number 2, the second thing you look for is your y-intercept. Find the y-intercept. In a word problem, your y-intercept, the letter for y-intercept is B, but in a word problem, your y-intercept is going to be the initial value, okay, or the starting amount. They're not going to say y-intercept because that doesn't make sense when you're talking about real words, so real application or something in the real world. We don't say y-intercept. But we do talk about initial values. Okay, so your initial value or initial amount of something, or your starting amount. An example of that would be I opened up an account with $30. Well, $30 is how much the initial value of the account, because that's what I'm starting off with. So my y-intercept in that case is going to be 30. Any questions so far? Okay. Lastly, I'm going to take same thing I did in my other problems with writing linear equations in slope-intercept form, is I take m and b and plug it into or substitute it into the slope-intercept form. So substitute m, this is the and sign, and b, which is my rate from the word problem, and my initial value from the word problem, into the slope-intercept form. And there you will have an equation. And the equation is going to be written in y equals mx plus b form, just called the slope-intercept form. And I'm going to pause to make sure that you have it written. Sometimes, guys, you might see the slope-intercept form written as y is equal to, and sometimes people put the starting amount first, and then they put plus or minus whatever the slope or the rate of change is. So you don't always have to have mx first. You could put your starting amount first and then put your slope second. It's still written in slope-intercept form, as long as um, y is on a side by itself. Okay. Okay. So here, make sure this is 3. So your slope-intercept form. I'm gonna write this out to the side. We need to remember the different synonyms for what x and y represent. When you're writing your slope-intercept form, you still need to know what they mean, even though you're not going to replace these with numbers or anything, except for if they ask you to solve for x or to solve for y. Then you might have to substitute values in. But you still need to know this. This is something that you still need to know. You need to know that the x itself represents input values. The y is the output, the answer, the total. Okay? Because y is equal to all of this. So y is going to be my total of something. And you need to know that. You need to also know that x represents those values when I do decide to plug values in, that they represent domain, while the y represents the range. You need to know also that x is the independent variable. That means it's unaffected by y, while y is affected by x, because you have to know what x is in order to get a value for y. So your y is your dependent variable. Your y depends on what the value of x is. Your y depends on what the value of x is. So your x is independent and your y is dependent. Now when they say what is your independent variable, they're not asking you to list a whole bunch of x values. They're really asking you for the meaning of x. Okay? This is something to take into consideration. All right? When they're asking you for your dependent variable, they're not asking you to list a bunch of y values. They're asking you for the meaning of y. And I'm going to pause so that you can have a chance to write. The other name for y is f of x. Okay? And I forgot to tell my other class this. I think we wrote it somewhere before. But this f only stands for function. Okay? So it's basically saying that you have to know what the value of x is in order to get the value for y. So that's why you can say y is equal to a function of x. That means I got to know what x is in order to get y. That's all that means. Okay? All right. Now let's take a closer look at slope. So just in case, guys, they're not going to say in the word problem, this is the slope, hey, me. You've got to really be able to read to decide that this is your rate of change or slope. So you really got to understand, what does that look like? In a word problem, or I should say, in any problem for slope, you have to keep in mind that in order to find slope, you can use the formula rise over run. You basically use this for a line. If you're not given a line, then to find slope, you use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That means when I'm writing a fraction for slope, my y's are on the top and my x's are on the bottom. So in any slope problem, you have to think like this. Whatever value is on the top of the fraction, they're talking about the y value. Whatever value is on the bottom of the fraction is talking about the x values. Okay? It's whatever y is on the top, x is on the bottom. So I need to give you a quick example of what I mean, because this is going to help you with word problems. Okay? So my example looks like this. Real quickly, just explaining, only looking at, taking a deeper look at slope. I'm not trying to confuse you. I just want to take a deeper look at slope. So with slope, or with rate of change, I'm going to give you an example of a rate of change. And the example is 50 miles per hour, or 1 hour. This is a rate, which makes this the slope, because you're going 50 miles for every single hour. Okay? So this is a rate or slope. Another way to write that as a fraction is 50 miles is on the top per 1 hour is on the bottom. So if I ask you for the meaning of what x is and the meaning for what y is, my y is on the top. Y's are on the top. So my meaning for y is miles. This is my meaning for y. It's miles. And since it's y is equal to something, more than likely I'm going to say it's total miles. And my meaning for x is going to be hours. Because remember the slope formula, whatever is on the top, that's what y is. Whatever's on the bottom, that's what x is. So x is going to be the number of hours. And this is just taking a closer look at slope. So as you're reading the word problems, you need to keep these in the back of your mind to help you write word problems. Questions about what I'm saying so far? I'm going to pause, make sure you have it written. The last thing I need for you to keep in mind is this, is if I'm actually graphing. My x values go here, so that would mean hours would go here, number of hours. My y values go along the side, so that would mean total miles would be I would graph here along the y-axis. So that way we can start making connections. We'll start piecing things together. But I want you to keep this in the back of your mind as we're writing these equations. Questions, comments, or concerns before we start just writing equations? Okay. I'm going to pause real quickly. I need you to go ahead. If you want to write your examples, if you want to do the examples on the Cami sheet, then go ahead and open that up on the Canvas page. If you want to write it on a separate piece of paper, you can write it on a separate piece of paper. Make sure you number your work and add those pictures to the Cami page, okay? And I'm going to show you where that is here in a minute. All right. That's already wrote on that one. Sorry, y'all. Okay. Slide this up just a tad bit. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Remember, the 3 steps to writing an equation is to find the rate, find the starting amount, and then take that and plug it into slope-intercept form. So that's what we're going to do here. And all I'm doing is just setting up this problem so that I can answer it tomorrow. But I'm not going to solve the problem. I'm just going to write the equation to be able to answer the problems tomorrow. All right, so here it says, suppose that the water level of the river is 34 feet. Okay, important information. And it's receding. What does the word receding mean? What does that word mean? Anybody? It's going down good. Reducing, it's going down very good. And it says at a rate of, and we got 0.5, or the math way to say it is 5/10 foot per day. So half a foot per day. Write an equation of the water level. So all we're doing is writing the equation of a water level. And instead of, they want us to use, and this is trivial, instead of using Y and X, they want us to use L and D, but we don't have to do that. We're just going to write the equation like they told us to. Okay. All right. So here we first identify what we think our rate is, and then identify what we think our starting amount is. Any guesses from this problem? 34 is your starting amount. Okay. And what about your rate? Is it going to be a positive 0.5 or a negative 0.5? Okay. All right. Very good, Drew. This is a negative 0.5. Can somebody different tell me why it's a negative? Somebody different tell me why it's a negative. Say again, baby. Okay. And what word indicates that? Receding. Excellent job. Okay. So now how do I take this information and write it as an equation? Okay. How do I take this information, my M and my B, and write this as an equation? Excuse me. Very good. You substitute M and B into slope-intercept form. So what's going to be the equation? Don't forget, what did I forget first? Anybody? Y. Okay. Y, then what? Y equals, well, the form is this right here, Y equals mx plus b. But you're telling me to substitute the values. So go ahead and substitute the values, and what does that give me? Mm-mm. It's very, very close though, but you're giving me too many letters. Yeah, it's Y equals, that part is right. And what do I put? Substitute means I'm going to replace it. So what am I replacing M with? The negative 0.5. Good. Then I write the X, okay? And then what am I gonna replace B with? A positive 34. Okay? This is gonna be the equation. Does that make sense? Hello? You got it? I can't hear y'all. Okay. Okay, so they want you to use these letters. So that would be L is equal to negative 0.5 or negative 5/10 D plus 34. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay. Let's look at number 2. It says Seth's father is thinking of buying his son a 6-month movie pass for $40. So he's going to buy him a pass for $40 with, so that means he's got to add some more money to that. So not only is he going to pay $40, but it says with the pass, okay, with this pass, it's $40 pass, matinees cost $1. So he's also going to pay the $40, but he's also going to pay the dollar as well for the matinees. In this, just this part here alone, because then we go to another equation here, okay, another scenario, because it starts with if and you go into something else. So let's just deal with this part alone. What's going to be the starting amount? Sorry, what's going to be the rate and the starting amount, or starting amount and rate? Doesn't matter which one you write first. Any guesses? Say again, babe. The $40 is which one? Is that the rate or starts the starting amount? Very good. You automatically have to pay that $40. So that $40 is going to be your starting amount. Okay? So what's going to be your rate? The $1 per matinee. Okay? So it's $1 per matinee. All right? Any questions about that? How do I then write this as an equation? How do I write that as an equation? Okay, good. And somebody different, because he's been giving me all the answers here. Somebody different, please. How would I write this as a linear equation? Will answered before too, so I need somebody else to step up. I want to see if somebody else knows. I'm gonna start calling names. Very good. Excellent. That's perfect. Do I have to write the 1 in front of the X? Anybody? Very good. So I could just write it, I could write it just like this, okay? All right, now let's deal with the other part. This is just saying if matinees are normally $3.50, so when I go to a matinee, that's all I'm going to pay. So how would I write that as an equation? For this one, for this equation or this situation right here, what would my M be and what would my B be? Anybody? This particular problem. Like before, they automatically had to pay the $40, okay? And then they paid $1 for every single time they went to watch a matinee. But here, there's no starting amount. You're not buying anything really. You're every time you go to see this matinee, you're gonna have to pay the $3.50 each. This is your rate. Okay? So all you're doing is just paying the rate. So how do I then write this as an equation? How do I write this as an equation? It's better to be wrong and try than to not try at all. So it's all good. And you'll see me make 1,000 mistakes. I'll try not to, but it happens because you're human. So we got y is equal to 350x, and she said plus 0, but we don't have to put a plus 0 here because this is our equation. We can put plus 0, but we don't have to. Any questions about what I've done here? Please speak up, guys. If you have questions, let me know. Again, I'm going to reiterate just in case you watch the video again. Only thing I want you to do is set up the equations. I don't want us to solve it at this point right now. I just want you to set it up. So I want you to do 3, 4, 5, and 6 and just set up the equations like we did in the last two examples. Okay?